Happy Wednesday. Welcome to the Inside Texas Football YouTube channel powered by InsideTexas.com. Got Justin Wells, got Coach Dub. We got the Skull Brother playing some touch with RT Young. I hope everybody else gets that reference. And if you don't, you should definitely educate yourself on one of the vestiges of America's yesteryear with smokeless tobacco advertisements. But RT, I know we've had you on a bunch of different shows, pregame shows, but glad to have you on the Wednesday night show.
Yeah, I'm excited to be here. If you've never seen Earl's legendary commercial from the early 80s with Skull, where he's lying on a beach and a girl comes up to him and he says, I guess I better go play some touch. When talking about Skull tobacco, it's an all-timer. So it's legendary.
I just thought you liked tobacco.
No, I actually haven't. I haven't had tobacco since high school. Since my mom found it in my car before I was going to college, and she said, "If you keep using this, when you get cancer, I'm not going to come see you in the hospital." So I stopped, and I haven't touched a can of dip since. I just like that. I just like that piece of Earl trivia. I'm just a fan of all things Earl. So
I'm the opposite. My mother dips Copenhagen today, and she looks down on me because I don't. She's like, "You're not a real man. Where's your chaw? That Levi Garrett or that Copenhagen or the Grizzly Red Fine Cut." I think that's what I have to buy.
Oh my God, with the fiberglass. See, I was lucky. I was really lucky in that, my dad's a cardiologist. My mom was a nurse who sold heart stuff. So I never had any interest in cigarettes or anything like that. Fraternity life, I had some suggested use of tobacco. And I was really lucky in that my body goes no, you want none of this, as opposed to oh, this is pretty good. So, but neither here, neither there. We got to talk a little bit about a different cowboy, and that is Quinn Ewers. Obviously, the big news today, Quinn announced that he is heading to the NFL. We kind of anticipated that over at Inside Texas. I think everybody who was a smart football fan anticipated that. Maybe other teams put together offers, but the NFL, Justin, is what Quinn Ewers, his family, has always sought, and today was a step towards that. What we knew was on its way to coming.
That's it, man. This wraps up the chapter of Quinn Ewers at the University of Texas. And this book started, 7.5 years ago? 7.5 years ago, from his beginning of his freshman to sophomore season, when he was offered and began taking unofficial visits. You posted an awesome picture on Twitter from the Inside Texas Twitter account of one of his old pictures where he bleached his blonde hair. That was the South Lake Carroll style. Still, that was back then. And when Riley Dodge came through, he brought it back. And so it closes a chapter on one of the most unique individuals we've ever covered. I mean, really. He came in with so much expectation, so many awards and accolades, and one of the only 1,000 rated prospects in the history of the game. I think Vince Young was probably the other one. One of the greatest. And you know what? The best thing about Quinn to me is, outside of winning a national championship, he did every single thing you could ever ask a Texas quarterback to accomplish, and then some, and then more. That's what Quinn Ewers did at the University of Texas, with all those expectations, with all that pressure, with all the buildup, skipping your senior year of high school, transferring from Ohio State, fitting in with Sark as he just starts getting started in Austin. So many things. Our man Eric Nahlin wrote the best goodbye to Quinn earlier today. Please come check that out at InsideTexas.com. It's a phenomenal read. Come check out all the stuff. We all had great stuff on Quinn today. It was Quinn's day today. He earned this today, and that's why we dedicated it to him today, because of all the great things he accomplished. And here's the best part. Off the field, he's one of the best kids you're ever going to meet. One of the best young men I've ever come across. And like I said, I have known this kid for a long time. And I am so fired up for him. I am so happy. You know, I talked to a couple of people right before the show started. Sounds like the LA Rams may have a little bit of interest in Quinn Ewers. Sean McVay, Matt Stafford, a former DFW guy that can kind of teach him the ropes, give him a chance to kind of settle in, learn the system for a little bit, not get thrown into the mix immediately, kind of the Tom Landry formula of training the rookie quarterbacks before you actually put them out there. And I think that the Rams would be a phenomenal spot. I think it's going to be important, you know, whoever gets him, you know, the franchise and the circumstances around him. But again, the chapter closes today. The book, it's not the end of the book. It's just the end of the chapter in the University of Texas. And guys, if you're a Texas fan, you have to be so thankful and so grateful for a kid like that. I know there were times where he made bad passes. I know bad decisions. He was a quarterback with everything on his shoulders, and he brought Texas back to where they needed to go. Again, accomplished virtually everything you could ever imagine in Austin. Tip of the cap, Mr. Ewers. I cannot wait to see him throw that pigskin on Sunday.
Coach, this is good. You know this from coaching in the DFW area. That mullet, before it became his brand, is definitely a South Lake thing carrying on. And this is from a 2019 junior day. So like nice. January or February.
It was January 19
of 2019. And I was scrolling through one of Will Gallagher's albums, Jatavian Sanders, and like there's a couple other well-known guys. And then it's like,
there were some older quarterbacks at that junior day.
Right. And it was like, hey, go make sure we go interview that Ewers kid. And there you see him right there. And then, you know, a couple years later, there he is playing in his last game as a Longhorn. Coach, as far as just what he's been able to do for the program, just as Steve Sarkisian has a really good term, a steady seed, just someone who is there. How important has that been for Texas to bring in other kids and bring in other portal receivers to know, hey, that Ewers guy is going to be there?
I think it's important. One thing I think he doesn't get credit enough for is being the bridge. Like, that's hard. Coming from a place who's had its up and downs of quarterbacks maybe since 2009, and I love Sam. Don't get it wrong, but he built the bridge and the gap between not having a quarterback to now we got Arch coming behind him, and that's a lot of pressure on a kid, man. And I know he's perfectly rated and all that, but he had a lot to live up to and a lot of expectations, man. And everybody put their own expectations on him, but he did what was needed for the Texas program. A bridge between the gap from now and where we're going in the future. Now you look at the quarterbacks that are lined up to play here, the receivers, everybody jumping in the portal to come play here. And you look at Matthew Golden. He came here for 1 year, and he think Quinn, like, he wasn't getting that at Houston, right? Now he's potentially a first-round receiver. Like, you look at all the talent that came to play with Quinn, play for Sark, and what they built and been able to do for the past few years is nothing short of amazing. And so, but he did it with a ton of pressure. Like, I think this job may be bigger than some NFL jobs. I'm just the way it is in Austin, Texas. But he did a great job. And so, with a ton of pressure on his back, man, kudos to him.
Forgot I had that up.
I was about to say, Joe, what was that?
That's it.
Google
made
that. Look at Joe's Twitter account. I thought we were about to see the DMs.
Google made that one for me. I didn't realize it was
that's not his burner. What is that?
No, I don't have a burner. RT just it's a real good burner if it has my name and face on it. So that's just like a weird Google made that for me.
Joe is honest to a fault.
But RT, like, just looking, and I think it was a really, I don't want to say weird, but a justifiable shift where it goes from all this pressure, all this scrutiny, all this, like, why isn't this quarterback good? It kind of flipped as soon as he made that decision. And I'm glad it did, and not 10 years down the road. And I feel like you are kind of in that same page as well.
Yeah, for sure. I think one thing that always frustrated me about the Quinn conversation was how I think he was graded on an unfair curve with Texas fans. I think the fact that he had the perfect rating, like Justin said, and that he had also originally committed to Tom Herman. I still remember where I was whenever Justin, whoever it was, Eric posted the story that he had committed or that he was going to commit. And I was driving on South First and I was like, I got to just pull over. I'm like shaking. I'm so excited about this commitment. And, so I think people saw the arm that could throw at 80 yards. They saw the perfect rating, the fact that he had originally committed, and that he was always, his Tinder profile, he was always he was always matched up with Texas. Everybody always felt like he needed to be at Texas. The Ohio State fit was always weird. So yeah. I think people always expected him to be there and didn't give really the context enough consideration that, hey, this guy missed a bunch of games his junior year of high school. He basically didn't have a senior year. His senior year, he's just wasting away as a fourth stringer on the bench in Columbus behind CJ Stroud and other guys who are going to be starting college quarterbacks. And, didn't even really have an off season. And then he comes to Texas and he's not the type of quarterback that people were thinking based on their original expectations. And granted, had Quinn Ewers stayed who he was in the 2022 season, we wouldn't be having this conversation today. But he didn't. He did consistently level up, but it never looked like what we thought from our original expectations. But that doesn't mean he wasn't a great quarterback. We had to eventually separate the fact he's different than what we originally expected, but that doesn't mean he's not great. And I also think you hear reports back in the day, you hear old players talk about Major Applewhite and Chris Sims in that situation. And man, that divided the locker room and that divided the coaching staff and really divided the fan base. And the fact that you had a freaking Manning sitting on the bench for 2 years and that the teammates never threw Quinn under the bus. They always had his back. Even when Arch started, they continued to support Quinn. And I think there was even the, context like that this might be a forced messaging from the team, but it wasn't. The team supported Quinn. He was their leader. And he's, the receivers supported him. And now, like you guys said, he's about to have his resume attached to another NFL receiver in Matthew Golden and probably more. So I'm really excited that he had today and hope he's much more appreciated in the future.
Hey, just to double down, RT, and I love that. You summarized it really, really well. Our man Ian Boyd needs to come back and watch this so he can take a few lessons on that 2-minute tutorial. I really like this. At the end of the Cotton Bowl, I talked to Kelvin Banks and Anthony Hill, and we asked both of them what their thoughts were on Quinn Ewers' career and the view from fans. And both of their answers to me were profound. Kelvin said, look, Quinn understands playing quarterback is probably the most important position in all of professional sports. It's just the way it is. It's so polarizing. And he said, people see it through a certain lens, but what they don't know is how hard the kid worked and how when he would get hurt, he would still show up and he wasn't a rah-rah guy. That just wasn't his personality. Anybody that knows Quinn knows he is an introvert 110%. Instead of going out on 6th Street and having fun with his friends, he'd rather be in a deer blind, shooting ducks, shooting animals with the Coke can of Copenhagen with a campfire. Like that's let me tell you something. That's Quinn Ewers 101. And Kelvin Banks was like, that guy's my brother. He's been the only quarterback since I've been here. That's the most reliable person I know. And then Anthony Hill doubled down and said, look, if you have a problem with Quinn, you have a problem with us because that's our guy. And if you're not with him, then you're not with us. Anthony Hill said that. That's a sophomore standing up in front of cameras, knowing his quarterback is about to go to the NFL and that the next guy is about to slide in and just completely flattening that narrative. If you're not with Quinn, you're not with us. You have to love that. And listen, players don't just say that stuff. We know these guys very well. They just don't say that stuff. And so I love what you said, RT. Great summarization, brother.
Using my wife's computer, so I didn't know I was mirrored. But before we keep going, we can see RT right there. You can see that. Play $5, get $50 instantly. You can see Charlie, too, right by Prize Picks. You see the code that you need to use. That's Inside Texas. If you play $5, get $50 instantly. NFL playoffs, NBA, NHL. Heck, I'm going to check. I bet there's some Australian Open stuff. So if y'all want to stay up, put some squares together late at night, there may be that available. Yep, tennis right there. So you can go ahead and do that. The Horns play basketball tonight. The Red River Shootout basketball version, 9 p.m. Central tip-off, which I know that we are all really, really excited about.
Hey, they can go like Coach Cal, 0-4 in SEC play.
Yeah. So if you want to play some really fun fantasy sports, you can see right there Quinn Ewers on that square right by Shadur Sanders. Maybe the only quarterback that gets picked ahead of him. We'll see. Go ahead and go to Prize Picks. Use the code Inside Texas. Play $5 and get $50 instantly. It is the easiest way to play daily fantasy sports. I know the Mount Rushmore thing is what it is, but I think tiers may be the way to do this. I think that's kind of what has developed into the ranking system. Vincent Colt
and Bobby.
Okay,
that's the tripod.
Well, Street? if you're gonna include Bobby, I'm gonna include Street.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. I think Vince is his own tier.
Okay.
No. Colt, I thought that too until Colt shattered everything he did, except record-wise, except for a natty.
But I just think
too.
So the top tier is in. Let's do it that way. Vince, Colt. Can I go Street then Lane?
I'd go. I think I'm basing. Okay, Lane was the first. Lane was the first premier quarterback at the University of Texas. And I think that's something to that. Also, he was a hell of a player in the NFL. Right. And so I understand that shouldn't have any credence in this, but like he was the last time the Detroit Lions ever played for a championship was the Bobby Lane era. So I have an affection for Bobby, but I like where you're going with this. You got to be. Did Houston Street lose a game at Texas?
Well, he won national player.
James Street. James.
James.
Hey, that's Longview, Texas, right there, buddy.
Did
he lose a game at Texas? I don't think so. So I think you probably have to put that in that top tier, and then we go to the second tier, which is probably Quinn, Sam Ehlinger, and then you can kind of we'd have to the debate would go on about kind of beyond that.
Right. And
what is still going to roll out? We joked on our internal group text about rolling out a new feature on the board, which would be for subscribers only about Bad Take Tuesday. And I think I was going to kick it off with, I like Colt McCoy, but if people want to come to the board sometime, I have a very spicy Sam was actually better than Colt take, which I'm not going to go into right now. That's board content only. But
hey, if you saw little heart bubbles going around my screen right here, that's because of you, RT. Because that's the Sam Ehlinger fan club for a reason.
Yeah.
That Joker had 127 touchdowns. People cannot wrap their minds around 127 touchdowns at a time that the University of Texas needed him more than Quinn. They needed Quinn in the last 3 more than they needed Colt 10, 15 years before that. They needed him desperately. So, man, RT is just bringing it today.
And I think one of the things that you have to look at is you may want to – he's going to be compared to Sam Ehlinger, and justifiably so. He'll probably be compared a little bit to Sims and Major.
Sims won a lot of games.
And maybe even a little bit to James Brown, not stylistically, but accomplishments-wise.
Yeah.
And you're going to look
at Brown was unbeatable too.
The Sims comparison is unfair, and I think Sims is remembered unfairly for his time in Austin. I'm
100%.
Young teenager in Austin at the time, but Chris Sims never won a conference championship. Quinn Ewers did. Chris Sims could not get over the hump against OU. Quinn Ewers beat OU twice. Obviously, a much different OU program, but even Quinn Ewers' big games, I don't think Chris Sims had that tier of big game wins. Quinn Ewers, we got to expand our minds too with what the 12-team playoff is. Quinn Ewers won 2 playoff games this year, and so that's a huge deal. And so I think he and Sam are kind of in that next tier, and then I would put the guys like Major Applewhite, Chris Sims, James Brown, sort of in that tier 3, below Sam and below Sam and Quinn. And that's no disrespect to, those guys. I just think, they were a little bit more limited as far as like pure college guys who maybe didn't translate. You couldn't really even squint and see who they would be in the NFL.
Duke Carlisle is in that tier too.
Oh,
yeah, national champion.
Okay.
Yeah, definitely. His bit, if I remember right, his most important play was actually an interception.
I think you're right.
Yeah, against Baylor in 63.
To keep the streak. I mean, to keep their seat. Yeah, I think you're right.
Yeah, a lot of weird things were going on in the 60s in football.
And then obviously Peter Gardier being
he never lost to OU, right? I'll just about to bring
Gardier never lost to OU, but good God, he never beat anybody else. And then Chris Sims thumped A&M like a stepchild.
Oh, I remember that.
Couldn't handle Oklahoma. Sims beat everybody they were supposed to.
Yeah.
They just couldn't get over the ones they shouldn't. They needed to beat.
Charlie, one thing I want to send your way is, and I think I've talked about this in the past, and I know Nash just wrote an article about it. You basically go up to 1995. And Justin, you and I were talking about this with 1,000-yard receivers. Like the first 1,000-yard receiver was Wayne McGarity in the late 90s.
1998, Mac's first year.
The forward pass had been around for a while. And it took Texas until then. And granted, the wishbone came from Texas. And they shifted a little bit towards more I formation stuff.
Yeah.
But Coach, you give a small bit of credit to Tom Herman for bringing modern spread principles to Texas. And that's why Sam Ehlinger, with 4 years, is near the top of a lot of leaderboards. But similar applies to Quinn Ewers. Statistically, he was the first guy to be part of an explosive, real, big offense. And that's a lot of reason why schematically and statistically, he's going to be remembered very, very fondly for what he did at Texas.
Yeah, definitely. We're talking about a couple of different eras there. Because VY had Greg Davis. You just read out.
I'm about to correct Joe on that one. Go ahead.
Yeah, he had, Greg had a little spread there, but VY uses legs more, right? I mean, he took some downfield shots, but nothing like Quinn's offense he is under Sark. I mean, can you imagine some of those guys in the same offense with Sark? Sark might be hitting his, taking his headset off because Vince would have took off a lot versus handing the ball off and throwing it. You know what I mean? Can you imagine that? But I think the offense makes a difference to me. I mean, you put Sam in this offense. Sam probably takes off and runs quite a bit too, especially near the goal line. But I want to bring that up. But Sam probably takes off and runs and gets in the end zone. But yeah, sorry about that one. But it's a difference because of the offense. Honestly, it makes a big difference to me because the way the offense is structured. And everybody under Sark has put up yards, no matter where he's been. And you look at the system, everybody puts up yards. Right? It just
Quinn's numbers are even a little watered down.
Is driving the vehicle to this offense, honestly.
Herman, I don't think brought the passing concept. I think Greg Davis brought the passing concept. Definitely. And understand people, so the viewers understand, Greg Davis is the greatest offensive coordinator in the history of football. If you don't believe that, you need to come to Inside Texas and say it to my face. Greg Davis is the man, okay? I am the biggest Greg Davis fan in the world. This is what he did. He put Major in the NFL. Major actually played for the Patriots. He put Chris Sims in the NFL. He put Chance Mock in the NFL. He had a run with the Bills and with the Houston Texans. Vince Young, Colt McCoy. If David Ash isn't a crash test dummy in BYU, he probably would have had a little bit of chance with that. But by that time, I think he was long gone. So let's put some respect on Mr. Greg Davis, the genius that was, because Mac Brown didn't know anything about offense. Greg Davis ran that thing.
That's true.
There was some stat about the Oklahoma game that the last time something or other happened, Mac Brown was calling plays for Oklahoma. Do you remember that stat?
Troy Aikman was in Norman.
I saw that, and I think that actually jogged my memory, and a friend and I were talking about it. We were like, wait, was Mac an offensive or defensive coach? We actually have no idea. And I mean, he was technically offense. I'm not sure it matters. But yeah, he was. I mean, he was just the ultimate ultimate CEO with that squat power pose.
Baby kisser.
Yeah.
He could have been the governor, fellas. He could have been the governor, and he would have loved the wheel route, just like the current one.
He could have been governor in 2 states. But we'll see if he does that at this point in his career. With one era ending, another is set to begin. Yeah. Arch Manning is about to take over for Texas. And Justin, you've heard me talk about how Quinn very often operated in the shadow of the idea of Arch Manning, that this great quarterback, last name Manning, again, great quarterback, last name Manning, torched UTSA, who won the Carolina Bowl, the Charleston Bowl, something like that. Torched ULM. Woo. Torched Mississippi State.
Wasn't that a decent ULM team? Decent.
Yeah, and I'm really tall.
He ran into some rocky road against Mississippi State and pulled himself out of it.
Right. But I think that inflated people's ideas of Arch.
Yeah.
To where it's like, this is the guy. What are we doing? We saw against Georgia. Wasn't exactly that. Sark saw it enough every day. And sure, maybe there's a little bit of political nature to this. But Sark saw it every day to where no hesitation to put Quinn out there, number one. Now we get to deal with no longer the idea of Arch, but the actual play of Arch Manning, and that's going to be a lot of fun to do.
I actually caught up with his head coach at Isidore Newman earlier today, Nelson Stewart. Unbelievable guy, man. I mean, huge guy, huge fan of Sark, huge fan of Milwee, huge fan of Texas. He is so excited. He is so ready. He thinks the fact that Manning got some starts this last year is the most valuable thing Arch has done so far. He said the fact that he's literally gone out there into games that Texas had to win, even if the opponents were a little, not superior, he still needed that experience. There's no price you can put on the experience factor. Peyton Manning even said it. Goes 3-13 his rookie year. He says he doesn't go 13-3 in his second year without that 27 interception first year. He said it just doesn't happen. And so the fact that Arch, we got a little bit of a taste of it, and then Sark puts out the Arch package, and this guy is turning into a running back and scoring touchdowns in unique ways, that just amplified what we knew about Arch. But today, 16 took over. Today is the day we close the chapter on 3 and 16 begins. And I'm going to tell you, there's going to be the same respect in that locker room for Arch that it was for Quinn. It's going to be different, though, because Arch is a different individual. Nothing against Quinn. As introverted as he is, kind of quiet, kind of shy, Arch is the opposite. Arch will get in your face. Arch is much more boisterous. Arch is super competitive, and you see it on his sleeve and on his face every snap. And so I think Texas fans are spoiled. I think the next 2 years are going to be an absolute blast. And yes, I do think he's going to stay for the next 2 years because that's part of the Manning quarterback process plan. And you don't deviate from the plan, just like he never thought about transferring, just like it was always going to be Quinn's job until it was Arch's job. If anybody could have handled this better, you let me know.
I'm with you there. Coach, what may be some, aside from maybe some more running opportunities or some more scrambles, what may be some things that look a little bit different with Arch at the helm as compared to what they did with Quinn?
You better be able to cover the entire field because he's going to let it rip. He's going to go. Like, you think you're covering a guy within a step? No, buddy. Like, he has the ability to let that thing fly and let it go. And there's no such thing as a deep safety with Arch. So it forces you as a defense to cover the entire field, which opens up a lot of underneath stuff, right? And maybe open up the run game even more because you really got to defend the deep ball. So, but other than that, it's just going to be culture. Like, Arch is just different. You see him come off the sideline. He's doing the dances. I wouldn't, doing the hand signals, whatever he's doing. He's coming to the sideline, putting his cape on the whole nine. You can see a different vibe, right? Like, he just mixes in with the guys a different way. I'm not saying you can go back and look at Shane Buechele his freshman year, right? He had a little bit of that with Boyd. Tyron Sue's had a little bit, but I don't know if you remember, against Notre Dame, Shane Buechele coming to the sideline. It was him and the Chris Boyd and DeMarco Boyd. They had their own thing, their own handshakes, the whole vibe. Like Arch has that, and you can tell they kind of follow him. It's just a different vibe, and it's going to be exciting to see, man, because I think it relates to the offense and the defense. They're going to rally around Arch, and they're going to listen to him. When he talks, everybody else is going to be quiet. It's just going to be a different vibe, and I'm excited to see it, though.
RT trying to think. I mean, Chris Sims was not really, but kind of like halfway a celebrity quarterback, but not really.
He was just off in a limo.
He was Phil Sims' son more than he was. I mean, I don't even know how to describe him. Like, there's going to be nothing like this Arch mania, and it's going to be fun to watch both as a Texas fan and probably even as a college football fan too.
Yeah, I mean, he's from the royal family of football. It's literally like he's from the royal family of football, wearing the royal logo of college football. I mean, it's going to be a huge deal. It's going to be a huge spectacle. You saw how the Texas crowd reacted every time he went in this season. My in-laws are loyal season ticket holders on the West Side, and they tell this great story about how during one of the games where Arch came in, so it wasn't one of the games he started, but their 4 sorority girls in front of them were on their phone for the entire game. And, they weren't watching the game. They weren't participating in any of the songs. They weren't even really talking to each other. Arch comes out at the end of the game when it's a blowout. Phones go in their pocket. They all stand up, and they're just going ballistic. So, I mean, he's got everybody, and I think that's a difference between Arch and Quinn. I think Quinn was a lead by example type. I think Arch is the type of like, hey, I'm going. Are you guys coming with me or not?
Yeah.
And, I think that's going to be a huge difference between just the styles. And I think it's going to probably be a little bit more aesthetically pleasing. Even though it was a good offense with Quinn, it was more methodical. And I think it really is going to be more of a return to kind of how you saw in that ULM game. Not every opponent's going to be ULM, but more of the all gas, no brakes that we really thought that we were getting with Sark. So,
Justin, one of the things I think Eric touched on today was, Quinn signed up to play for a 5-7 team that nobody else was really flocking to.
Right.
And I think we've touched on this well, like Kelvin Banks, Cam Williams, 2 guys who are going to be top 60 picks. Like, it took Mario Cristobal leaving Oregon for Miami for that to really open up. And granted, Texas did a great job to capitalize on those situations. But you remember how crappy that July was. It stunk when both those guys end up committing to Oregon.
Yeah.
Once Cristobal leaves and Texas pounces, like, that was basically kind of the only sign that, like, okay, these guys are maybe starting to come around. And then Quinn signs up. And to a different extent, like, Arch ended up signing up for a team that had just come off a 5-7 season, wasn't tearing things up, committed to Texas over Alabama under Nick Saban. And was that still Tommy? Oh, Bill O'Brien was there at the time, I think.
Yeah.
And then Georgia, and I don't think it was
it wasn't Bobo.
It was Bobo at that point.
It wasn't
Monken.
There's Todd Monken, I think, or Jeff Monken.
It was Monken? Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Still, like, Alabama, Georgia. The fact that Quinn signs up for a 5-7 team and then Arch signs up for a 5-7 team, I think should have a lot of people excited about just how into building this program, not building, but keeping this program at a winning level, both those guys are. Yeah.
When you brought back that July 4th weekend from that class of 2022, buddy, man, that was a tough weekend. That was one of those weekends where you regret the person you work with more than you've ever regretted working with somebody in your life. And that came to fruition. But the truth is, Quinn had a lot of faith in Sark. Quinn always wanted to go to Texas anyway. Quinn just needed a reason. Tom Herman was not the reason. He was not going to play for Tom Herman. He did not like the way that the program was going. He was in the Red River Shootout when Texas lost, and Sam was the only guy doing the Eyes of Texas. He decommitted 24 hours later. People don't understand. That's what
Justin didn't Herman actually get his foot back in the door with Quinn in the first place only because of the Mike Yursich hire? I think he had pretty much. I mean, obviously he had that connection to Texas, but I remember he and Yursich were really close, and that opened the door back up where he was like, okay, maybe I can look past some of these Herman issues with the offense and the program and him treating his quarterbacks like a battering ram. I mean, can you imagine how long Quinn would have lasted if he had somehow played with Tom Herman the way he treated Sam Ehlinger? I mean,
I remember part of that. The attention that Mike Yursich gave to Quinn Ewers was taken away from the attention that Mike Yursich gave to Jalen Milroe.
Yeah.
And that's what kind of led to Ewers committing, Milroe leaving. But then once the Ewers family, Justin, correct me if I'm wrong, once I saw Ewers go ahead and ran the ball, saw Sam battering ram 20 times to limited success and then be left standing alone on the field after the game. That was in a very, very charged time in our lives. That was a moment that kind of made a few different decisions at the Ewers family table. So it was.
I think Quinn, in the right circumstance, would have still signed up seeing that offense, and I think it would have been retooled because Quinn was obviously a much more polished passer than Sam was. He wasn't the competitor, but they're just two different horses. You can ride either one, you're going to win the race either way. But with Quinn too, don't forget, like when he went to the portal from Ohio State was for one reason: to come to Texas. That's the only reason he got into the portal. He knew where he was going before he left Columbus. And Sark, he put faith in Sark. It's the same thing Arch Manning did. Arch essentially, look, people know now Arch grew up kind of a de facto Texas fan. His godparents are from, I believe, Highland Park. And so they would send him Texas stuff, because they're Texas exes. They would send him Texas stuff when they were kids growing up. And so he already kind of liked Austin. And Arch likes the Austin scene. It's hard not to. He likes that. The friends he's built. People don't realize his best friend on the team is Michael Taaffe. And that's before Taaffe was even on scholarship. Taaffe was so instrumental in the recruitment of Arch Manning. People don't understand. Taaffe was critical in that thing. But it was faith. It was faith in Sark. It was faith that Texas was going to somewhere bigger. And Weston just took the words right out of my mouth.
Oh man, I have that chart in my bathroom still. It's a great gag. Always.
We had that chart for my son when I was teaching him when we were potty training, because the deal was piss like a champion. Are we going to piss like a champion today? Because I'd put Cheerios in the toilet. I'm like, all right, you got to hit the Cheerio. Anything on the outside, bricks. You got to piss like a champion today. And to this, he's 8 years old right now. He can fire that sucker.
Oh man.
And I always thought the top color in the pee chart, it needed to be like, you need to go to the hospital, because like if your pee's looking like that, I mean,
something's wrong with you.
So.
It looked like this. Like
yeah.
My son doesn't call Gatorade. My son calls Gatorade hydrate. My son has never said the word Gatorade in his life. That's hydrate. Piss like a champion.
Oh man. I think that kind of wraps the Quinn and Arch. We're gonna have so much more time to.
I wanted to say one small thing about Huff, but I'm gonna let you steer it. So
yeah, we'll get to that. We got a lot to get to, but we got to make sure we show some love to Laura Baker.
Hi, I want to tell you about Laura Baker. If you're looking for a new home in the 512, or even at this point, let's face it, 737 area code, there's only one number to call. That's Laura Baker at 512-784-0505. As a member of the elite Andy Allen team with Keller Williams, Laura has helped Longhorns find the home of their dreams in Central Texas. Just ask our resident sex symbol, Ian Boyd, who moved all the way from Michigan to Texas with Laura's help. Laura can help you find what you're looking for in the 512, the 737, or even parts of the 254 and the 210. Just, give her a call at 784-0505. Her email is in the description as well as the rest of her contact details. She's a friend. Give her a call.
Got a
Gatorade Zero, retired working man. Gatorade Zero, less salt, no sugar. That's the key.
Always good stuff. We'll go through some questions real quick. When is the deadline to announce
tonight, midnight?
The NFL draft early departure deadline, or if you're a COVID senior somehow still tonight. So you got to make you got to tell the NFL by tonight. You don't have to make some social media proclamation. You got to tell the NFL. You have to go, at least for Texas, who had a little bit of an extension because of their appearance in the playoff. They have to go to UT compliance by tonight to put their name in the portal. They may not show up they have 48 hours to show up. Compliance has 48 hours to put their names in there. But the deadline to announce for the NFL is tonight, and the deadline for a player to go to compliance and be like, I'm leaving, put my name in there, that is tonight as well.
We're watching.
We got a lot of guys to talk to, but I got to go to the guy we put into the title, and that is Michael Taaffe coming back. A few other guys have announced that they are coming back. We've been talking a lot about number 16, but Coach, we got another number 16 coming back. It's a second-team All-American. I'm almost done calling him a former walk-on at this point because of what he is for the team, and he's going to be a critical part, not just on the field, but as far as leadership, too, next year for Texas.
I call him the glue. He's Mr. Quarterback of the defense, man. He's so huge what they do in the secondary from communication, get everybody lined up. He sets an example on how you should play every single day. He sets an example for all the people in the program on how you should go about work and about your business on and off the field. Like, people don't really realize that. And it's going to be huge next year with a lot of young guys playing. I know McDonald played and Derek Williams is coming back, but he set the example. He sets the bar so high that people want to play to his level. And I think you see that throughout the entire team. And so somebody like Michael Taaffe, man, like, it's what you sign up for. Like, he's a true program guy. And that's the type of guy you want on your team and around your program. And I thought he's invaluable, man. I love Michael Taaffe, man. Maybe he should wear the number 7. I think he should. Why not? He had the numbers to back up to maybe win the throw up this year. Why not go for it next year? Wear number 7, Taaffe. I know he wears 16 for a special reason, though, but I can see him in 7.
Hey, to Jade's credit, he wore 23 for a reason as well. But he found time in his career to wear number 7. Maybe they can do that. RT, just trying to think about the fact that not only are they getting this All-American back, they're getting this leader back. But they're just going to have somebody back there who, amidst all this change, is going to be the guy that you expect for him to be. And maybe he's not a pro prospect, but golly, he is a great college football player that Texas is lucky to have.
Yeah, I love Michael Taaffe. I think as a fan, especially in this day of college football, this era that's just so strange, and you have. I saw somebody posted where Denver Harris was going, and it's like he's going for 4 teams in 4 years, and it's like, man, this is like a lot of this is I can stomach, but stuff like that, I'm just like, who goes to college for 4 places in 4 years?
If you think he's bad, look at TJ Finley's.
Yeah, and I think just the fact that with Michael Taaffe, you're like, man, that guy might actually love Texas and love the Longhorns more than the fans do. And, there's been times in the program's history, really not the past couple of years, which I'm thankful for, but there have been times in the past couple of years where as fans, I think you've been like, man, I like this program. I like this university. I like this burnt orange way more than these players do. And, I think with Michael Taaffe, you never question that. And obviously the fact that he was so fun to watch pre-snap this year, just his communication. I mean, it really he looked like a Manning. Like he looked like Peyton Manning pre-snap, directing everybody, getting everybody in their spots. The fact that Jelani McDonald and Derek Williams are going to be able to continue to learn from him, as are the corners. And then you have a potential prodigy like Jonah Williams coming in. Justin, you could speak to that. But, I mean, somebody like that with that God-given ability who just, he might be an all-timer just as his in terms of his potential that he can learn from a leadership and communication and just mental standpoint. The game from somebody like Michael Taaffe for a year is super exciting to me.
Agreed.
Maybe playing alongside him some in the course of the next season.
Jonah's gonna play this year. And this is a good question here. Who will be Taff's backup for next season, Mr. Helio Castillo? It's going to be Jordan Johnson Rebel as of right now. And we're going to see how that thing plays out in the spring. A lot of moving parts. That's not in stone, but expect to see JJR on the field a lot more this coming year. And Jonah Williams, like RT said, his talent is just undeniable. And so Michael Taaffe, could you have a better teacher back there than Michael Taaffe? And at the end of the day, though, really the greatest thing about Michael Taaffe is that he lives in Arizona State fans' heads rent-free forever. For like Sandlot, forever. And I nourish that. I am nourished by their tears. It sustains me.
We got more returners to talk about. One came out tonight. DJ Campbell, working man. You're getting a lot of features tonight. DJ Campbell is coming back, and I think my take of the offseason might be O-line may not be a big concern.
No, not at tackle.
I feel fine about an interior of Campbell, Hudson, and then Neto / competition.
You know what's crazy, Joe? As much as we talk to people within the program, you would think losing a Banks and a Williams, because this was kind of known for the last 6 months for the most part, at least with Banks, you would feel some trepidation in their voice whenever, we got Banks one more year. You never heard that. It was just like, oh, we'll be fine. Like, wait a minute. What are you talking about? You're talking about the most highly acclaimed offensive tackle probably in Texas football history. You're not worried about that? No, they're not. Trevor Gooseby is going to slide in. Fantastic. I can make an argument he might be the best offensive tackle in the SEC in 2025. That's how important that guy is. That tells you how important that O-line is. You lose a Banks and a Williams predictably in the first round, and you think, okay, there's going to be a drop-off. Yeah. And then you see the two dudes behind him, and the Texas staff is not worried. It's an interesting situation.
Yeah, I think this will be Hudson, but Coach just kind of, or at least at this point, we expect.
Yeah.
Cruz is still a year away.
But Cruz will be good down the road, but maybe not as good as Hudson is right now.
You don't want a center with a freshman with a new arch.
What do you think the profile, I guess the strength of this offensive line? I know it's really hard on January 15th to look to August 31st. What do you think the profile of this offensive line might be?
To me, it'll kind of be similar to this year. I think you have a mix of power and athletic tackle with Gooseby. Depends on how big Gooseby gets over the offseason, right? He's more your athletic, being able to move type of tackle, but then you got your power and experience in the middle. So I think they'll be able to run sideline to sideline outside zone, but I think they'll be able to run inside zone next year quite a bit more.
Yes.
If the guys aren't as big, I think they'll work on more double teams to the second level, right? Versus more single blocks and things like that. So you might see more inside running zone schemes next year. So we'll see. The spring is going to be very, very important to see how these guys develop and mesh together. That's going to be super important. And we know they cross-train and they learn both sides, which is really, really hard to do. Coach Kyle Flood is going to get them ready in the spring. And so I can't wait to see how it unfolds. We'll hear about practice reports and then we'll see the spring game, but I'm ready to see those guys kind of develop and mesh together as a group.
Dang, it looks like Paxton just brought it up, and I'm checking it on my phone. Silas Bolden posted a thank you college football post. So I think that makes sense. Here's the thing. Guys may have an extra year, but 5 years of college football is a long time, and they want to start getting real contracts for it. They want to get paid for their football, not for their name, image, and likeness. So understandable.
Silas might get drafted late. He is going to be a special teamer type guy where, it's probably going to be 4 special teams. I'm not sure if he does, but he might get drafted late. It kind of reminds me of Keaton Crawford. Keaton Crawford was getting NFL looks as a backup at Texas straight because of his special teams ability. goes to Nevada, has a great year, goes to, I believe it was the Hula Bowl a couple weeks ago, gets a pick. That kid's going to get drafted because of what he did on special teams. Silas Bolden, I started calling him Heart Attack during the season because I felt like every time he was catching a punt, I was holding my breath and a cardiac arrest was right there. Like I didn't know if I was going to need a defibrillator or what. But it was exciting. And man, Bolden, you talk about a kid that came in, just kept his head down, took his role.
Yeah.
Look, there were times when the receivers went out, Bolden would slide in. Him in space was hell to catch. Silas Bolden is one of the most underrated factors of this 2024 season.
Yeah. Think that will about do it. I've got to go tend to a dirty diaper. So
I want to say goodbye to Michael Huff. I want to say congratulations.
Yes. We got to make sure he gets some credit.
I was able to catch up with him a little bit earlier. Gave him the biggest congratulations. Michael is a friend. He said, "I'm just a skinny kid from Irving, Texas." I said, "No,
cricket eye.
You're a college football Hall of Famer." Michael Huff might be one of the most generous, unselfish human beings I've ever met in my entire life. Nobody deserves the honor that he got today more than Huff Daddy. Michael Huff. We would talk about Michael Taaffe being all burnt orange, Sam Ellinger being all burnt orange. Michael Huff. Congratulations, Huff Daddy. We are all super, super, super proud of you. Come to Inside Texas and let's talk about him some more.
Absolutely. Thank you all for watching. Make sure you like this video, subscribe to the channel, follow Justin's advice. Make sure you go to InsideTexas.com and get all the latest updates. We're tracking all the different departures, retentions, all that different stuff. So make sure you head over there. Coach Justin, thank you. RT, thank you for stepping in. Got to get you on here more. We'll see you next time on the Inside Texas Football YouTube channel powered by InsideTexas.com.